Hey everybody, it's author MD New, and I'm back today with some more writing tips for you. Today we're going to talk about audiobooks. We're going to talk about kind of the journey that I took going through creating audiobooks for my books. This is not a comprehensive how-to, it's not a comprehensive tutorial. It's just some general information for you to consider when you want to create your own audiobooks. If you want to dive deeper, I will link below my blog post about audiobooks, and it goes into a lot more deep detail about my journey and my creating my audiobooks. Currently, I have two short stories and four novels out. The short stories are The Reunion and A Dragon for Christmas, and the novels are The Calling, Contact, Conviction, and Tad. So I do have a little bit of experience with this, and again, I'm just going to be sharing my journey and what I've learned so far as tips and tricks. I want to share it with you. I want to help as many people kind of navigate this crazy world of the author life, and so hopefully this information is helpful. Again, I will have a link to my blog post, which will go into a lot more detail and hopefully be even more help to you. So when it comes to creating audiobooks, why and how? I think the why is pretty easy. You want to have your books available in audiobooks to help get you more royalties. The how, that's a little harder. So first, there are different audiobook production companies. I'm sure you know this, but there are a bunch of them. Some of the big ones are ACX, which does Audible and is owned by Amazon. You have Scribe, you have Chirpbook, you have Findaway Voice. Those are just a few. You can Google other production companies, and there's going to be a bunch of them. They're all going to be a little bit different. They're all going to work a little bit differently, but the general concepts that I'm going to be telling you about should all be about the same. So the first thing you have to think about is the cost. Now, this is going to vary. So you have different things. In my case, I went through ACX, which I did royalty share, which I didn't have any upfront costs, but what this meant was that I split I split my royalties with the narrator slash producer. So this works for some people, but not for everybody, because some people want to get as much of their royalties as they can. So yeah, that's just what I did. Now I may be changing that in the future, but for what I wanted to do, it worked out well, and I got really lucky with some great narrators. So you have next up you have what they call like a royalty share plus, which is kind of you agree to split your royalties, but you also agree to pay your narrator slash producer some upfront fees. And this can vary greatly. The fee is per finished hour. So if you have a book that is, let's say, 10 hours, and you agree to pay them $50 per finished hour, that's $500 that you have to pay them, plus half of your royalties if you're doing the royalty share thing. So keep that in mind. The benefit is you get a better caliber of narrator, at least in theory. So this is where you can get some SAG actors who come in and who are part of the guild but are doing this to make some extra money. So they have a lot of experience and they might have some name recognition, so it might help you with the promotion. The last way to create an audiobook is to pay for your narrator or producer outright. You agree to pay them whatever their fee is, and you get the rights, so you get all those royalties. Keep in mind, this is very expensive. I know some authors who have spent $5, $6, $7, $8,000 to have one audiobook created. That's great, but that's a lot of money to pump out up front. Again, the benefit here is you can get a SAG actor who will come and narrate your book. If you've got the money and you want to pay for some big name to do your book, that's great. Go for it. You'll probably sell a ton of audiobooks because you have that name associated with them. So now that we've talked a little bit about some of the basic costs, and keep in mind, very basic, let's talk about the royalties. Depending on the company you sign up with, you'll get maybe 40% in royalties. So that means if you sell an audiobook or they sell the audiobook for 10 bucks, you'll get $4. That's not a lot. So if you do a royalty share with your producer, you'll each get 2 bucks. So you see what I'm saying? So all of a sudden that $10 sale, now, $6 is gone right off the top. And then you're splitting the $4. Now you're down to 2. Keep that in mind. This is pretty consistent with most of the audiobook companies that I'm familiar with. There may be some slight variations here and there, but from what I've seen and what I've heard from other authors, this is pretty much what you're going to see. Now, when it comes to the audiobook itself, this process is going to take you a lot, quite a bit of time. It can take months or more. It can take a year. It can take 16 months. It's going to depend. And it's a lot of work. You don't just magically snap your fingers and all of a sudden you have an audiobook. There's things that you have to do. First and foremost is you have to ensure you have the rights to turn your book into an audiobook. If you're an indie author, you automatically have the rights because you did it yourself and you're not working with a publisher. If you're working with a publishing house, you have to make sure that you have the rights to produce the audiobook. So it may be as simple as reviewing your contract and seeing that, oh yeah, I own the rights for audiobooks, or sending them an email and saying, hey, I want to make sure that I own the rights for the audiobooks. Now, if you don't own the rights for the audiobook and they're a big enough publishing house and they're going to help you create an audiobook, this is going to be the easiest way to do it because they'll help you. But keep in mind, they take a cut of your royalties. So that all of a sudden that $2 that you were originally getting may only end up being now 1. So keep that in mind. Um, just something to think about. For me, what I did was I asked my publisher, I said, hey, I want to do audiobooks. I want my rights back. I sent them an email. They sent me a confirmation email, confirmed that I now have my rights back. So I could I could create and publish my audiobooks the way I wanted, with the people I wanted, etc. So it worked out really well. I'm really happy. I love the way my audiobooks sound. I think I got really great narrators. So yeah, so like I said, for me, I'm ecstatic with how it worked out. So keep that in mind though. You have to make sure you have the rights. That's kind of the most important thing. Now, when you start the process of creating your audiobook, you have to do auditions. You actually have to create a script from your book, maybe a couple pages, read it, make sure that you can read it in about a minute, minute and a half, and then you post it and you get people to audition. You can also send out a notice to narrators who you actually like and say, hey, I've got this book that I would like you to audition for. I actually did this with A Dragon for Christmas. I found a couple of narrators who I really liked. The women did amazing voice work. I sent them auditions and I said, hey, would you like to audition for this? I'm doing royalty share. And I got a couple of very polite thank yous, but no. And then I did get a couple of other people who said, "Oh yeah, I would love to," and they auditioned. And actually, that's how I picked out the narrator, and she does a fantastic job with the characters and the story. I really am happy with it. So you have to do that. You have to then once you do, and that's like just the first step, right? You're not even to the production of the audiobook. You're sitting there and you've just now got your narrator, contracts are signed, everything is good to go. You listen to their first sample and you tweak whatever you need to tweak, and you all of a sudden are like, okay, great, now let's go. Not so fast. Each chapter you have to review. You have to review each chapter, approve it, listen to it, and see if you have any changes. And then you have to let the narrator know. Then they make the changes. Then you have to listen to it again. So as each chapter comes in, you listen, you review, you make changes. If there are no changes, that's great. Then then you get all the way through all 10 chapters or 20 chapters or how many chapters you have. Before you hit that little publish button, you have to do a final review. You have to go through all the chapters again, and this is your last chance to make any changes. And please don't skip this. You would be surprised at what gets missed. I've had that happen with each of my books. I've had to go back and say, okay, hey, so and so, I missed this the first time. Sorry. Can we go back and fix this? And they're like, yeah, no problem. So you get that final review. Then you hit the I'm approved, they're approved, everybody's happy. Now you wait again because the book production company will then decide they have to do their final review. So you wait for them to approve it and post it. And they may not always let you know when it's going to be posted. It might take a week, it might take 2 weeks, it might take 3 weeks. You just never know. But once it's done, they usually send you a message that says, hey, we've published your audiobook. At this point, you get to start marketing it. And that is a whole separate ballgame. Marketing is a whole separate beast that I'm going to cover at another time. I don't have time for it today, and it'll take us away from the topic of audiobooks. So, those are my basic writing tips for creating an audiobook. There is a lot more to it. This is very high level. This is very basic. It's an introduction to, hey, I want to do an audiobook, and what do I need to know? This is the stuff you need to know. Like I said, I'm going to have a post to my blog, post to my blog post below that you can review and check out. It goes into a lot more detail. There's a lot more information there. I break down some of the costs. I give you some of the percentages. I tell you my experience through Audible and ACX, which to their credit, have been really good, and I'm very, very happy. Also, I go into some of the pitfalls and why it took, so long for a couple of my audiobooks to finally get out there. So check that out. Hopefully it's some really good information. In the meantime, feel free to hit me up if you've got any questions or want to ask me anything else about any other writing tips or tricks, and I'm happy to help. You can find me on all the typical social medias or you can email me. Okay, everybody, have a great day. Take care, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye.